Chris, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great, man. How are you?
You got fire. You've got fire in your belly. You've had it your whole career, and I'm
Yeah.
so stoked to sit down with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never heard someone describe that to me in that context when describing me, but it's actually a concept that I used to talk about, actually, fire in the belly, like having breathing techniques, building up the fire and stuff like that. And I always tried to bring some passion and bring some energy to the game. That was always like my favorite form of expression. So, man, thanks for having
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
me.
think when I think of you, you've got incredible talent, both from obviously a technical side and a physical side. But reading your work and listening to how you make sense of things, it's evident to me that you've spent time investigating your inner life. And I don't know if you did it formally, like you had help and you had
Yeah.
whether it be a spiritual leader or a psychologist or just really switched on people, wherever you grew up. But have you done some of the inner lifting?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a part of the job, especially if you want to be successful, in my opinion. Um, I guess it's something that I really can't describe. I guess from an early age, I was just always just kind of aware of certain particular things, aware of how I felt about things. I didn't talk much as a kid. I was very reserved, very quiet. But where I'm from, you have to have a very vivid imagination to kind of stay stimulated. That's kind of, I guess that's where it came from. Just a lot of time just in quiet solitude, quiet time with family, riding in cars, just hours and hours and hours of sitting. And, you know, um, uh, I think that's where it comes from.
Okay, so let's pause on that because
Yeah.
I've got a story in my mind, which is like you had to drive a lot to tournaments and practices. I'm guessing that that's what you're referring to. But when you said where I came from, what does that mean?
I'm from Hutchins, Texas, small town, Hutchins, Texas. It's about, at the time, it was about 2,000, 2,500 people living there, somewhere in there. And now it's like triple in size. Dallas continues to grow big, but it's the next city south of Dallas. And so that's where I lived. It was more of a rural industrial area, um, you know, middle to lower middle class town. And although I had my friends in the city where I stayed, the joke was, it was the country. I stayed in the country. So that was that's what I mean by that. So a lot of, picking up sticks and making up games and hopefully playing with friends, but you've got to walk, hopefully they'll meet you halfway. A lot of riding bikes, those things like the kids in the sandlot do. That was very, very, very close to how our childhood was.
Okay, so you've seen the world. You have
Yeah.
traveled the globe, you've won gold medals, you've won at the highest level multiple times in the NBA, and a premier all-star. Like you've done it. You're a global citizen and a world-class, world-leading performer in your craft. When you look back at that small rural experience, what did you grab? What did you learn? What was infused, or if we use a tech term, what was installed just by the environment that you grew up in?
Man, so many different things. What do you mean, like growing up in or traveling the world?
Let's go. No, I want to go back to the origin. So looking back,
Okay.
now that
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
been to the
yeah.
big cities and everything, and looking back, like what was materially important from that young experience?
You know what? Just being a kid, being a child, having the ability to do that. It never got too serious too quick for me. I always loved basketball. It was always a part of what I wanted to do. I did it, but I more so did it on the playground, did it with my friends. It wasn't about the leagues right away. Even though I did play early, it was only for about 10 weeks out of the year. So other than that, I'm going to practice or, playing with my friends. And so, that's when I look back on it, that's what I love the most about my childhood. Just being allotted the time to process these things as a child and have those experiences as a kid. Like I said before, riding your bike, you know, getting chased by dogs, you know,
Would you
going to the recreation center, having, great times at summer camp. Those were, major parts in what I experienced.
okay. Do you consider your childhood to have innocence?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, there's the yin and the yang, right? But yeah, absolutely. Being
Mhm.
able to have those innocent type of thoughts, but especially definitely being a kid, being protected. At the time, my mom and dad did a good job of protecting us and making sure we're staying in our studies. My grandmother lived next door, so there wasn't much wiggle room. Even if you wanted to sneak out the house, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing but wooded area around. So we had that bubble within everything. And that I feel kind of allowed us to do that, because yeah, when you grow up, we had so many friends that you just want to grow up so fast, and when you do, you can't get that time back, and
Okay,
they
'cause
always
yeah,
talk about wanting it back.
yeah, no kidding. That's why I was wondering if you it sounds like that bubble that you're describing created a bubble of innocence where you could be a kid and play and you didn't have to have the adult mind at play, like what am I gonna be and what am I gonna do? And
For
like,
sure.
but I did read about, I think when you were in maybe age 14 or something, you had a bit of a pushback, like you need to put on weight, like you're too skinny, and you had some of
Right.
that body stuff that I want to get into. And you also, if I got it right, you were part of some nerd clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen,
Absolutely.
I'm all about it too, because when I was reading
For
about what you
sure.
did, I was like, right
Oh,
on.
we could get into that. For
Yeah, so
sure.
that geek stuff. Okay, but so that was a little later, and the reason I bring up the nerd stuff in jest is because if I understood correctly, you kind of had to hide that part of you, your intelligence, your smartness, your interest in the
Yeah.
non-athletic stuff, which I think it's important in your shaping. But hold on, before we go there, because I think this
Yeah.
is really important. I want to go back to this idea of your dining room, living room, kitchen table, wherever you guys gathered to spend most
Uh-huh.
of your meals. If there was one, two, three words that you say, these are the themes that kept showing up at the dinner table or breakfast table, wherever you guys congregated for food, what would those themes be?
My aunt and my grandma would always alternate Thanksgiving meals. And then even on top of that, we would probably eat over their house, maybe, once every other month, once a month, quite often. Laughter, nothing in particular, but just laughing. That was a very huge family staple. We wanted to have a good time. We want to laugh. Definitely an apparent theme was being aware of where we are and our environment, and how we hang out in that environment. I got a sense of, like, if my big cousin came by, okay, I can kind of tell what he did that day. He's way older than us, so he'll take my dad, and at that time they'll have their lingo and stuff like that. Or if we're sitting at the table, my aunt, who is the matriarch of the family, she'll, you know, yeah, just current events, talk about something, what's in the news. It was always very current, and just expressing yourself in a funny way most of the times. But always having a great time, always feeling the love, and it didn't always have to be a holiday for that. Like I say, it could just be a Sunday, and my aunt Clyde, she'll cook, and we'll go over on top of the Thanksgivings and the Christmases and stuff like that. And it was just always a great time. So I would say that was kind of the thing. You go there to have a good time and joke and laugh.
Okay. Would you say you've carried that forward in your professional career and even, post athletics?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That was a huge part of coming up in basketball that I found was great as a tool for leadership. Anytime we were on the road, let's go out to eat together. Let's have this meal as a team. There's something about sitting down and having those conversations around the dinner table, the breakfast table, the lunch table, whatever it is, with your team. And I found that to be something to where you could really build connections. And those connections ended up helping us be as successful as we could be on the court, right? Because you have to know who the person is that you're playing with or that you're working with. And I found that those dinners, sitting down, and it's a way to kind of forget about everything else. Sure, there's enough, time to in the day to get the troubles through or whatever. But right now, hey, we're having a good meal and just joking, laughing, maybe watching the game. And I even pass that down to our kids. I have 5 children, and so my wife and I, we'll go out and we'll take them and we'll say, hey, we're sitting at the table and we're going to sit together, whether that's here if I'm barbecuing on the weekend, or if we say, hey, let's go out to eat this weekend. We'll, sit down as a family, and I want them to get used to that and have the manners and be able to present yourself at a function. Those are very important skills to have.
Okay, I love this. I'll tell you why. When I hear you describe what you're describing, people talk about you got to know your people. You got to build the relationships if you want to do hard things, which is flat out. I'm nodding my head because to do the extraordinary, it's so big and beautiful. Nobody can do it alone.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Yeah.
And what happens for most people is when they feel stress, if they're not really connected to others, they go into save your own ass as opposed to like be in the foxhole with you, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, and so what I
Yeah.
love about what you're describing though, it's not so much that I'm hearing that you leveraged an authentic, well-grooved, true truth for you, which is, hey, let's laugh, let's eat together, let's build relationships, and let's practice being fully present. There's
Mm,
troubles that we got to worry about later, but
sure.
or wrestle with later. But
For
right
sure.
now, let's practice being present with fun, with food, with each other. And
Man.
then I bet that that would translate into bonding and present focus when you're trying to, you're down by 4 and it's finals or whatever. Like you're
For
practicing
sure.
being present. Yeah.
Well, one of those things, the main thing that it does is it builds trust, because you can talk on, how to talk to this person because, and then and understand and say, we're on the same team, right? That's always my big thing. Let's watch how we communicate with each other. We're on the same team. And even if it does flare up, we got to button it up, and it's always coming from a place of passion. But just, you have to build that up because in the finals, your comrade is going to make a mistake and you're going to make a mistake. And sometimes it might be a turnover that leads to a fast break. You can't say, oh, not again. Oh, you immediately that quick have to say, get back. And not that you have to be mad at the person, but if you don't know that person, it's like, oh, you'll have a reaction that you shouldn't have. And it'll be that split second between that possession that could have won the game or could have lost the game.
Okay. I want to pause here and take a quick little break to talk about 8 Sleep. I've been using 8 Sleep mattresses for the past few years. It's a great tool now for consistently sleeping well. What I love about it is that it is very applied and smart. It's tech infused. Science suggests that there's no one universal sleep temperature, and this is what they're working to solve. And so, how do they do that? Like, temperature is a really big deal when it comes to high quality sleep. And moreover, to make it more complicated, our sleeping temperature, those needs change throughout the night. So, as body temperature affects both circadian rhythm and sleep quality, and it's not like you just set one temperature and you're good for the night, our biorhythm changes and our biotemperature changes throughout the night. The Pod Pro by 8 Sleep, that's the name of their product, it's made a big difference. So what they do is they pair dynamic cooling and heating with biometric tracking. So they have all three working together. And the temperature of the Pod Pro adjusts on each side of the bed based on your sleep stages and what your unique needs are. And they've got 2 products. They've got the full mattress setup. And then if you like your mattress, they've also got a mattress top as one of the solutions. So go to 8sleep.com/finding mastery to check out the Pod Pro and then save $150 off at checkout using the promo code Finding Mastery. So that's 8sleep, EIGHT, 8sleep.com/Finding Mastery. And just for clarity, I'm using the full mattress and I'm excited. I'm going to start using the mattress top here soon. So I'm excited to try that one out as well. And Finding Mastery is also brought to you by Wealthfront. There's been quite the day trading frenzy over the last few months. And if you're paying attention to the market right now, you have an idea of how difficult it can be. So research has found that investors that trade individual stocks tend to underperform the market every year. The odds, they're just not in your favor if you're doing it alone. Well, unless, of course, you're a badass at trading and you've got some sort of history to back it up. But for the majority of us, Wealthfront offers a great solution. They can create a portfolio of globally diversified, low-cost index funds that are personalized just for you. And they do it in just a handful of minutes. No manual trades, no picking of stocks, no watching the stock market every day. They automatically handle all the investing based on preferences that you control. So Wealthfront can even help you lower the taxes that you pay as you invest. For the average client, their tax loss harvesting can more than cover the low annual 0.25% advisory fee. But best of all, it's all automatic. Wealthfront is trusted with over $20 billion of assets, and you can get your first $5,000 managed for free by going to wealthfront.com/Finding Mastery. All you need is $500 to get started. Grow your wealth the easy way and let Wealthfront do the work for you. To get your first $5,000 managed for free for life, go to wealthfront.com/Finding Mastery. That's Wealthfront, and you spell that wealth, WEALTH, front, FRONT.com/Finding Mastery to start growing your savings. Go to wealthfront.com/Finding Mastery and get started today. And with that, let's jump right back into our conversation. Okay, let me play this out because I hear you clearly, which is be present, let go of things that are distracting you from the unfolding moment ahead of you, right? Let's say it's a turnover, and let's say it's a costly turnover. And I think it's also important probably to just level set, like, I don't know, how many mistakes would you make per game? More than
I don't
one. I
even
mean,
want.
it's
I still
right.
haven't
Yeah.
counted.
Yeah.
I
Right.
disagree with whoever told me.
Yeah. It's like we make mistakes. To your point, it's
Right,
not just one mistake. It's like there's mistakes being made, micro mistakes. Sometimes they're costly, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you get away with it.
right.
Um, but I hear you saying, okay, you gotta recognize it, drop it, get back, be in an athletic
Hmm.
defensive stance or whatever you need to do to meet the demand. And then
Right,
I hear the other part of me says, okay, all true. However, there's context with this. So the context is, let's say that you and I are playing, and in practice, I'm constantly putting myself in a bad situation, right? Because
right,
I'm driving to the hoop with my dominant hand and I should be putting it on my offhand. And then in the game,
right,
I put it on my dominant hand. I should have put it in the offhand and it gets blocked. Fast break turnover. It's like the mistake that I keep making in practice. Everyone's jumping my shit about it during practice. And then it happens in the game time. And that I went out the night before, played a little bit, too much Xbox or, like, right. Okay. So,
yeah,
okay, so now it's compounded.
yeah.
How do you still have the discipline to say, right? Or do you get rattled? Did you ever get rattled in those situations as well?
Well, I mean, before that situation even happens, if you're aware of a teammate that's probably not up to par, you would hopefully have conversations before it gets to that point, or you guys, through the bonding, can have enough respect for each other to say, "Hey," because that's the main part, right? We're going to have to correct each other's mistakes. We're going to have to listen to the mistakes, and
Mm.
it has to come from someone you respect. You just can't be strangers in the locker room is to say, "Hey, you need to use your offhand, man." Well, you might not even say it in the way that that person can understand it. And, there hasn't been any building to be able to get to that level to say, "Hey, look, if you did this, you might be looking at some success. Hey, you might want to get some rest." You know what I mean? Like, and hopefully you nip it in the butt before getting to that point. But either way, you can correct things. You still don't want to throw it in someone's face. That's kind of one of the things I've learned about being, the main thing about being in the locker room for so many years is that we're constantly nitpicking and picking things apart and pointing out our mistakes and saying we got to get better until you win a championship, if you're lucky enough. There is a delicacy to talking to people, to talking to your teammates, to demanding. Some people you have to push, some people you have to pull. Motivation, you might have to light a fire. Some you might have to hold on, let's bring it down a notch,
Yeah.
so, and you can
Yeah.
only know that through that bonding. So, I say overall, it's just something you continue have to fill out. And yeah, in the mistakes, you can't say, aha, see, that's why, yeah, man, that's the quickest way to lose somebody. You have to encourage people, you have to be together, and it's always going to be hopefully another possession, another game, or another practice. So even if those things do happen, you address it the next time, and you address it the next time until the mistake is corrected.
I imagine that you are coachable. I imagine that you crave being coached, that you didn't have to read the book on being a beginner's mind or being a true learner.
Yeah.
It feels to me like you are that. And so, two-part question. One is, are you trying to be your best or the best? Part one. Part two, how did you provide feedback to LeBron and to Wade when you were, the magical three? How did you work with extreme talents that were also your peers?
That's a great question. The first one, in the beginning, it started out with me trying to be the best. And the problem with that is that it's relative. I hate the argument who's the best. I hate it, you know. And if I'm my best, then if I'm that means I'm getting my best potential. Being the best, that's too egotistically driven. And especially on the team that we were on, I had to fall back offensively. And some responsibility on the team. If I was in my first 7 years when I was in Toronto, I'm getting, about 20 touches, 15 to 20 touches in a certain particular area. So my ability to function was very high. And I'm used to getting the ball here and being the focal point. But in this one, it's more spread. And, Dwayne and Brian, they're ball dominant players, so they're going to be the ones making the plays. And, we had to trust in those dynamics, so and by that time in our career, we knew that we had to come together to win. That you have to be a team to be able to gel and win. So anytime we spoke to each other, we knew that we were coming from a place of love, that we're coming from a place of winning. We all had winning character. We had all known each other since we've been in our teenage years, going up through the basketball circuit. So it was coming from a place that, out of respect and knowing that we want to be champions one day. So let's make the best out of it.
You skirted the question on how'd you coach them.
Oh, how would I
I
okay. How I thought you said, how did I
no,
communicate? How would I coach him?
yeah.
Let them do what they want to do. Let them do what they want to do.
I
Where
you
do you
know
want to
what?
get the ball? Okay, cool.
I believe that for you. Like, this is
Yeah,
so knowing your path. Let me like put it in my own language a little bit, is that you are you're the go-to on the teams that you came up on. You
right,
were the guy.
right.
Now there's a chance to go work with two other folks who are the guys.
Yeah,
And in some respects, when I was watching, and I don't know the locker room at all about what you guys were doing, but I'm like, oh, so you took a little bit, I don't want to say backseat. That's not fair, but you definitely took the team role. You
mhm,
value team over Chris's,
for sure. And those
you
guys do too. They do as
okay.
well.
I see, I
I
don't
think,
know. Yeah.
yeah, I think the way, if I were a coach during that time, the way I would coach, those guys in the way that they do it. LeBron, he already has a mind that, we all had minds that could kind of transcend a game plan, right? You just want to have a solid foundation, a system as a team. It's kind of a thing you have to earn their respect every day. And at the same time, you have to be aware that the players are the one out there on the court. So it will be constant conversations about what they see, how they feel. I would tell them what I see, and on top of everything, I would challenge them. That's the biggest thing. Both of those guys in their primes could roll out of bed and get 35 to 50 points a night. So it's really not about talent. It's about, yeah, lighting that fire, recognizing if I need this person to do this or that, and having that open monologue of conversation. Nothing too outside the norms
Okay.
of what makes
Yeah.
great coaches great. Yeah.
Here's I'm wondering if you have this type of experience. Steve Kerr shared this with me about when he was playing with Michael Jordan. And so Jordan Jordan brings the ball down, shakes him, takes it like an 18-footer, one step 18-footer. Jordan the story, brings it down again. This is in practice. Shakes Steve, same shot. Third time, and I'm kind of taking some liberties in the story. Brings him down, same move, one step over, 18-footer, drains it, and then kind of, squares up with Steve and is like, when are you gonna actually kind of stop me? Like, I'm being PG here. And then pops him in the mouth during practice. And
Yeah, of course.
do you know the story? Do you know the story?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, again, this was
Yeah.
Steve telling it, and I'm taking liberties and whatever. But do you have those experiences?
What, like confrontational
Yeah.
things or?
Yeah. Like, because like you guys are alphas. The three of you guys
Yeah,
are alphas.
yeah. We never had a confrontation where it came to dukes. Nothing even close. Did we have healthy debates? Absolutely, plenty of them. I'm sure I said some things that they probably didn't care for, and vice versa. But we always, always, always never let anything fester. I think that's the biggest thing. If something was said, if we have to have a conversation, a team meeting, we have to have it immediately within the next 24 to 48 hours. That's usually how we did it. I actually, there's a story that I referenced to in my book. It's not those two, but it was with Eric Spoelstra, the head coach. We were in the middle of a game, and I just wasn't in a good mood for whatever reason. And we're letting this game slip away. So that's adding, it's just dumping gasoline on the fire. And I knew as a player, when you're playing well enough to win or lose the game, we're about to lose the game. And he was saying something, and I can't even remember what he was saying, but I just started going off, and man, I was so upset. And we kind of went back and forth, and I could tell he didn't really care for it. He was a little, he was upset after the game. We were all upset, and and on top of that, we're going into Golden State for the next game. So I know we're about to lose two in a row. This is our first couple games on the West Coast trip, and then the next morning, Spo, he hit me. He texted me and said, "Hey, let's do breakfast." And that next morning, we talked. I told him where I was coming from. He told me where he was coming from. We went back to practice, and I made sure that I communicated with the team to let them know that that was wrong. That was wrong. Let's go. Let's prepare for tomorrow because we need a good practice today. We've got a hell of a team we're playing tomorrow. Could I, if my ego wanted to hold on to it, could I have said if I'm wrong or whatever, or not tell the team? That's great. Well, when the 15th guy on the bench barks at coach about some BS, and then he starts losing the team, well, whose fault is it? It kind of goes into that what if, and you don't want it to get there. So, we always came from a place of respect. That was always something that we said, and those moments do happen. It doesn't have to be oh my God, how could you speak to me like that? Then you never talk about it. No, I'm speaking to you like this because I want to win. And then you got to come to that understanding.
You know what I like about that framework? It is in sport, it happens all the time. Exactly what you talked about. There's a flare, then there's a private moment, and then it becomes public.
Mm,
The public piece is the reconciling. It is the recapturing the essence of the relationship. It's the
right.
explaining, it's the apology, it is truly the repair. And it doesn't necessarily happen in business that way.
Yeah.
And right. And so but the framework is clear. There's a bit of an explosion, and this holds up in, let's call it, in our intimate relationships with our partners as well. There's a
Yeah.
fight, there's an argument, then there's a
Mhm.
repair privately. But if you happen to fight in front of the kids, then we need to go back and repair so they're not left with a
Right.
story. If you fight in
Right.
front of 20,000 people, or you fight, more importantly, the 15 on the bench and the
Definitely.
coaches, you've got to go back and repair, right? And you have to
Right.
do that publicly. So yeah, I think it's a really important framework. I'm imagining that you are relationship based and
Yeah.
developmentally minded, but I don't want to put those two phrases in your mouth. Is that true for you? Because the opposite would be like, no, I'm outcome based. I
Yeah.
am competitive, and like there's another frame that you would say.
Yeah, I think there's a mode to that. But at the same time, I've been so lucky to reach the highest peak of basketball a number of times. And at the end of the day, nothing's more important than your relationships. You have seen the classic story of the athlete with nobody. He or she was egotistically driven. Now they have nothing, and horrific injuries. Something took them out. Now they gotta. It's like the classic movie line. My best experiences have come from my relationships with friends, with my family, with my wife. Those are the things that I can look back on and say, man, that was a good time. Because you can play in the All Star game, or you can even play in the NBA championship in the finals. What I remember most that I'm not now that I'm not playing anymore, and you hear most of the athletes say that, right? Is the bus rides, the camaraderie, the locker room,
Stretch.
yeah, those things, that interaction with that person, because at the time when you're younger you think it's going to last forever, right? Then you get traded, or we don't win, and now they blow the team up, or I sign somewhere else. It's just different. And even till today, guys like Pat Riley, LeBron, Dwayne, Ray Allen, Shane Battier, we all still talk. I still talk to those guys, and we have relationships after the game because we have children, we have interests, we have a whole other, hopefully 2/3 of a life to make great. So I think we all relate on that stance. But you do realize after time that that's what it's about. I don't know the term relationship based, but I can see what that means and how it could apply to me.
Yeah. You just mentioned 5 or 6 extraordinary performers and greats, if you will.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Great.
Yeah. What is the common thread between you guys? If you were to put you and them up as emblems and say, you know what we all have in common is, how would, and I don't like to be a reductionist, Chris,
Yeah.
but I think that there's like, if we can play the game for just a minute,
For sure. For sure. I love
Yeah.
reducing things.
Oh, you do. Oh, you do.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Oh,
Then
for
we're
sure.
we're good compliment.
For
Okay.
sure. I was easy. The first thing that comes to mind is work ethic. Putting in the work. By far, they are legends in their own manner in putting the work in. More so, LeBron and Ray Allen. To me, those are the two that was like, I think even, and this is just my opinion, it's not confirmed, but I think Brian kind of saw some of the stuff Ray was doing and was like, oh, okay, I got to step. I got to get my fitness game up a little bit. But yeah, they always worked extremely hard, and smart as well. But putting the time in, whether that's taking care of your body, eating the right things, watching film, working on your offhand, getting free throws up. I've never seen guys work so hard, and it was inspiring to me. I mean, people have told me that same thing, but they made me feel like, oh, I've got to get better just at practicing day to day. Forget the game. I can't do that right there, but I will, because I'm going to make sure I get in the gym to be able to do that. And I think we definitely all shared that common work ethic for sure.
And what are you practicing now, Chris? Post athletics, what are you practicing to get
Oh,
better at now?
oh my goodness. I'm an aspiring artist, full disclosure. I work in a bunch of different mediums, but, what do I practice? I practice cooking food. I practice music. I'm actually working on my piano chops right now. I'm taking classes, photography and painting, and drawing. I would say those are the things that I practice pretty much daily. Yeah, daily.
And do you have that same deliberateness to your practice when you're sitting down at the piano or, behind your camera? Is it the same type of deliberateness, or does it feel a little different? And I know it's a different craft,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
talking about the mental discipline there.
It feels a little different. The deliberateness is meeting the quota, in the practice time. So, having that, I think I forgot which thing it was about the brain, the 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes or something like that, then take a break
That's right.
and then sit back down. But just making sure that I'm putting some time in, if it's 5 minutes, if it's an hour and 5 minutes, just making sure that I, at some point in the day, think about it, see it, touch it, feel it, and just put that time into it. And then on those days where I can really dive in, but more so, I like to take, that's why I was telling you, I like to reduce, I like to break things down to its simplest form and then learn the fundamentals. And then I
Mhm.
feel, kind of like the 80-20 rule. So I'm really technically, I'm very aware of the 20% to learn. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just learn this 20% and I can, really lock in and focus on that. And then we're good to go, and we'll see what the outcome is.
Would you consider yourself a creative?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Even when I was playing basketball, I was creating.
So you
Um,
were Yeah, because I think most people are incredibly
yeah.
creative, but we don't know how because we think of Leonardo da Vinci as the creative, and like we don't know
Yeah.
how to fare up against somebody like that. But to solve problems requires some creativity. And
Yeah,
so you are
for
solving
sure.
problems all the time on practice and in games. And so I think the extraordinaries tend to express themselves in different ways. And you're
For
really
sure.
good with language. W- would you use were you verbal or were you more introverted in the way that you would express yourself?
I was very quiet coming into my Toronto days,
Mhm.
and rightfully so. I was 19-year-old rookie coming from that part, playing with Vince Carter for a year and a half, and then kind of pretty much going down to the doghouse of the NBA and having to build ourselves back up. And in that, I had coaches and players and leaders that would push me to be more vocal. There was nothing I couldn't, they would not let me settle or run from anything. It's like, no, you have to push these guys. You have to do it. There wasn't any wiggle room to say, oh, well, coach, you should, no, 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 you do it. And I'm so appreciative for those lessons because they were necessary. There is a vocal aspect to being a leader. You don't have to, you stand up on a chair and give them a win one for the Gipper every game, but you do want the ears when you speak. You want what you have when you have something to say. You want it to be powerful, and you want it to be heard. And so I always kind of took that with me. So I kind of tried to mix both, but as I became older, as my confidence settled, I began to be more outgoing, more boisterous, whether I was in the locker room or socially, and kind of just having fun with my immediate circle and the people that I'm around. Now, I wouldn't get on the bullhorn and say, "Hey, yo, Toronto, what's happening?" I wouldn't go that far. But if you were at dinner with me, we would have a good time.
Let's take a quick little break here to talk about Dragon. Dragon They're an amazing eyewear company. And I think you're going to love their premium polarized floatable sunglasses. And I bet most of you have some sort of experience about losing glasses while you're in the water. I've had plenty. And it's awful. It's never fun. It's one of those things when you're out in the water, it's usually sunny if this is the case, if you're wearing sunglasses. And when they fall off your head or your shirt or whatever, and they're down in the drink and you can't get them back, now you're left with the rest of the day, kind of doing that squint thing or pulling your hat over your eyes as best you can, which that's where this solution comes into play that they've created. They know that. They know you. They know what happens when you're out in the water. And so they created a premium H2O floatable collection. So what they've done is they constructed it from a specially formulated injection molded resin with a density that is lower than water, thereby allowing the glasses to float. How cool is that? And so they've also designed a special coating to ensure that they are resistant to water and dirt and oil and other elements while maintaining a crystal clear view at the same time. I want to highly recommend that you look at Dragon's collection. So to learn more and to get 15% off your purchase, visit dragonalliance.com and use the code Finding Mastery at checkout. That's Dragon Alliance, and you spell alliance, ALLIANCE, dragonalliance.com, and then use the code Finding Mastery for 15% off. And Finding Mastery is also brought to you by Aura. What is Aura, you ask? It is my go-to as a wearable health tech company that delivers personalized sleep and overall health insights to help you go into each day better rested and ready to get after it. So Aura measures heart rate variability, respiratory rate, skin temperature, and many more biometrics, all from your finger. And I've had a handful of conversations with their lead scientists. I love what they're doing. I'm bullish on their tech, so much so that I actually put a little money into the company as an investor myself. And so when it comes to tracking HRV, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most dependable data possible. And I found that Oura Ring, they are one of the most accurate wearables available right now. So how do I use it? First thing in the morning, what I do is I go through a morning mindset routine. It's a little bit of meditation, a little bit of breathing, a little bit of gratitude training. And that only lasts a handful of moments. And then what I do is I check into the app just to get a sense of what biodata is saying about my resources to get after it. So I want to encourage you to check out Oura Ring. I want to encourage you to check out the importance of heart rate variability and some of the other metrics that they're measuring so that you can be more optimized. So to learn more about Oura, I want you to punch over to get.auraring.com/finding mastery. Again, that's get.auraring, O-U-R-A, Aura, ring, ring.com/finding mastery. I really like what they're doing. I hope you do too. And with that, let's jump right back into our conversation. Okay, let's pull on that thread and go back to the time of innocence for just a moment. And when you think back, what was it that you were trying to better understand? What is it that you were trying to, really explore? And I'm asking, like, what was fascinating you when you were younger?
Art for sure. I was always drawing, not so much looking at paintings and stuff, but just how to draw better. That was fascinating. The internet was fascinating. I think it kind of started coming around, therefore computers and technology and all of those things. So I really dove into that very, very early in the mid 90s and getting better at basketball and video games. I can say video games too. Very, very into video games. Not designing or anything, but I got into graphic design. I wanted to be a graphic designer at one point in time. I found out like how to bootleg Photoshop, and that that went around. So we always had a computer at home at the time, and so just really during those times, that's just kind of that was the world. That was the world, man. That's what I was interested in. And movies, I can say movies for sure. Film has always been a huge influence in what I've done, and really just being a personality. Through that, I saw Eddie Murphy and Jim Carrey and Stuart Scott on Sports Center and Scott Van Pelt, all those classic guys, just watching them on Saturday Night Live and then on Sports Center. That's how my head was. It was like a SNL Mad TV with Sports Center mix with Jim Carrey somewhere in there, just being characters, just all day, every day. Yeah, I knew my interest, I knew what I liked, and I really didn't think anything of it. I just kind of did them as hobbies, and because they were fun.
And then looking back, was there ever any real question if you were going to pursue basketball full time? Were these other interests competing for your attention? Or was it like, no, 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 it's basketball and then these other things are cool too?
It was always basketball, and those other
Okay.
things were cool. I would say right up. I always drew. I drew. I kind of think it probably fell off around middle school, high school. Definitely high school is when I wouldn't draw as much. But yeah, I all those things took a back seat to basketball. I mean, it was always basketball from the moment from the moment I took it in to saying, okay, yeah, I never really. I tell people all that the time. They say, "Hey, what would you do if you didn't play basketball? What else did you want to do?" I could tell you the other things that I like, but there was nothing else. I did other things, but basketball and nothing else.
Okay. So, like all great explorers, and yours being an explorer of potential, were you trying to unlock something or were you trying to get recognized and paid? It sounds like you said earlier, be my best, but earlier it
Yeah,
was be the best. So I'm just trying to get an original
yeah.
framework for you. Like, what were you trying to unlock?
The potential of basketball, of course, hindsight is 2020, right? But I was
Mhm.
trying to unlock the potential of basketball. At the time, I knew that uh, my parents paying for college was not an option. They told me, my father told me. And even during those times and even before, the content that I was taking in was all about basketball. It was or high school athletes getting college scholarships and then going on to be great. So it was always about unlocking my potential, looking back on it. But it starts with being the best. Michael Jordan, that was the influence. I mean, when I started speaking fluent basketball, my first words were Michael Jordan, and just seeing the run and his dominance that was built into my brain. And then we got Kobe Bryant, so these are my heroes. These are the guys that my generation want to emulate. And for me, yeah, it was about being the best, but it was also about just the love of basketball. I loved basketball. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So although I did have aspirations of making the NBA, it was never about money. I joke with people all the time. I didn't even know what car to buy. People were coming to me saying, "Yo, what car do you want?" I don't want to get anything too expensive. People looked at me crazy. You know what I mean? It's just, I just wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to compete. I saw myself more as the guy in the jersey and warmups playing the game. That's how I saw it, as opposed to the guy in the car with the stuff. I never even thought about those things. I wanted the glory on the court. I wanted to hit the game-winning shot. I wanted to be on the game-winning team and come through and win the championship. Those were the moments that I wanted, as opposed to the being aware of the materialistic things, which they're there and they're cool. Don't get me wrong, but that was never my intention.
So let's stay here for a minute. When you double click underneath of that, did you want that experience because it's like, I matter? Look what I was able to do. Or did you want that experience for, oh my gosh, it is possible to have poise and to be able to deliver when time's running out?
It was more so look what I can do,
It,
challenging myself to get the best, out of myself,
Mhm.
especially when people will tell you that it's not possible. That is a reality that we all have to face. Not everybody is going to tell you that it is attainable. Kind of like talking about the too skinny thing. That was the thing. Oh, you frail. You're frail. You're frail. Ah, I hated that word. But just kind of going back at those during those times and not letting that affect my work ethic or my psyche or my belief. You have to hold on to that image.
I hear that, but oh, you
Yeah.
just answered it. I stepped on it. You have to hold on to that image
Yeah.
of what the future brilliance looks like.
Yeah. I mean, it was always about the work for me. It was always about one of the things that my habit was always being in the gym. I had a good friend of mine. He retold me about how I was always in the gym. He'd come back and I'd be there at night. Like, I didn't even know anybody was here. I'm coming back to get my keys and you're in the gym. Golly. And I was probably like 15 years old, 16 years old. It was just a hunger in me to get the best out of myself as a basketball player. I loved seeing myself excel and my team excel too. The more work
Mhm.
that I started putting in, the more robust the product became. And I started getting attention. Let me be frank with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. 'Cause, sports, it's like, yeah, you're good. It happens very quickly if you're in that status. And I started to see it more and more. So I started going harder.
I wanna get to success, but I wanna stay here, like, with the too frail thing. Can you go back to a time when like, tell me, like, how you dealt with it when someone said, "Hey, man, you're too frail." Imagine a coach or a scout or somebody of quote unquote influence when they would say
Yeah.
that. Like, can you go back to
It,
those moments and like, how did
it,
you filter it and make sense of it?
it was more so from the peers.
Mm,
My coaches were always supportive because I would always come back to the gym. I always wanted to play. I was always enthusiastic. So like, yo, this kid right here is crazy. But it was more so from, yeah, just, peer pressure, that whole teenage stuff that goes on. That's pretty much what that was. And it was always kind of a thing like, it was kind of like a knock, but you have to be tough. I mean, playing ball in Dallas and South Dallas and Hutchins, Texas, you had to be tough. You had to play the game aggressively, or people are probably going to take advantage of you and probably just nudge you and see what you're made of. And you have to be tough and get people off you. That's just the nature of South Dallas and where we're from. So that was always instilled in me. So it just really rolled off me and never really affected me. I didn't like it. It made me upset. But like I say, it didn't matter because I was always at practice. I was always at the gym. They're not at the games anyway. You're giving me an interpretation of what you think. If we were on this court, you wouldn't be telling me that. So and
uh-huh.
really just to be honest, that always put me not in an underdog position, but always feeling like I was overlooked, really for my whole career. And that looking back at it now, I wasn't overlooked. It's like, nah, yeah, hey, keep that drive going, keep that fire lit.
Oh, look, you created that. So you got quote unquote tried, by people and they would try to knock you down, but then
Of course.
you would put it through a filter, which is like, first of all, you wouldn't be saying this if we're on the hardwood. You'd see
Yeah.
that I'm not too frail for anything, okay.
Yeah. And I'm not
And
scared of
then
you.
I'm not scared. And then yeah, okay, good. And then you would use it a bit of a chip on the shoulder or fire in the belly. How would you think about like that? I'm going to work.
You know, and maybe this is my thing. I don't want to pick apart language. I never really liked the term chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Chip on your shoulder. I guess the wrong people, people that weren't very successful use that term a lot early in my career.
Hmm.
But yeah, just that fire in the belly, just always wanting to be better. You don't have to have a chip on your shoulder to feel like you have to go out there and play the game you love. Like, I felt the chip on the shoulders, like, man, you got to be a certain way. You got to carry yourself a certain way. Fire is like, hey, man, nice to meet you. Let's play this game. I'm gonna still knock you on your butt, and if you knock me on my butt, oh, that's a good one. All right, let's play. There's a certain way that you play the game, in my belief, and passion was always a part of it.
I love that. And I want to know where you got the phrasing of right attitude, right commitment, right flow with a team. Because I hear Buddhism in there. And okay.
I read quite a few things in meditation, Tao, Buddha, those
Mm,
spiritual subjects, trying to find that flow, right?
mhm,
Because there is a flow to the game. There is some things that I had to get into to help me understand more the things that are happening out here and what we're preparing for, especially at the elite level, and especially when it was out of my hands, meaning that I didn't have the ball in my hands 75% of the time. I had to find a way to fit in the flow, without the ball. And that's a huge, huge part of the game. Most of the guys on the court don't have the ball, but everybody wants it, right? And you think you're dictating the game because you have the possession. And I had to learn that that's not necessarily true. And I had to learn these principles of course, letting the things come to you, but it's a dance. We're gonna have fire. We're gonna be physical. We're gonna work hard, but in the flow of this game, you still have to carry out the game plan. You have to execute the things that you talked about as a team. You know, you have to
mhm.
be there and communicate. All these principles and all these things are happening at once. So I had to try to find that flow state, and just try to stay there because it comes at you very quickly.
You know, I was going to go down the path about your career-ending injury that you had,
Yeah,
and I want to understand like how you dealt with it. I think it's evident how you dealt with it. I'm not saying it was easy
yeah,
by any respects, but I can hear your framework. It's like you got a big picture approach. Your identity is not wrapped in just to what you do, but the
mm,
man that you're becoming, and you've got an incredible internal set of skills to be able to pivot, to be agile,
yeah.
and to go to the next, whatever the next opportunity is. And so I don't think that that's confusing, but I guess for me, like, was that really hard for you? Was the retirement
Oh
phase hard?
yeah,
Yeah,
extremely hard. I played my last game when I was 31 years old.
right.
I thought that I'm 37 now. I easily thought I would be playing now. And, maybe in the twilight phase right now, maybe one more year. But that's how I saw it going. And at the time, yeah, it was extremely difficult to handle. But I found those things like writing, music to put my time into, spending time with my family, getting into that, being a father. It's a lot of things you have to do, getting into that stuff. Those are the things that kind of help me exercise those demons of not playing anymore because I didn't know how much time I was given to the game. My life was so regimented. We do this, we do this, we're playing on Christmas, hopefully the playoffs, everything revolved around that world. And sure, I've been lucky to have a couple of other things that I'm interested in, but that doesn't mean that you do them at a professional level, right? Or open up some sort of business around that idea that doesn't necessarily happen like that. And it was extremely difficult. I want people to understand that. I know I'm all cool now and very zen now, but yeah, it was very, very tough, trying times. But leaning on those things, keeping that big picture focus intact, and that was the ultimate challenge. To be honest with you, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you be talking all that stuff. Yeah, let's really talk about teamwork. Let's really talk about putting the work in. Let's really talk about visualizing your goal. And yeah, that was yeah, I mean, basketball was great, but that was easy. Yeah, let's do this now. And then I had to build back up from where I was as far as interests are concerned. I had to ask myself, what do I love doing? What do I do? And I had to eventually get to the point where we are now. And I still have way more work to do. I'm just not getting to the point now where it's like, okay, I know what practice is. Let's get to practicing, and I'm so fortunate to have a book and be an author and all those things. But that process took 3 years. And, now that that's done, there's a next evolution, hopefully. And there's always more work to be done. So um, I found myself having that challenge of figuring out how to live. And that's a challenge I think we all kind of can really, really agree that we all have. You have to find your
Yeah.
way, right?
Chris, I want to say thank you for sharing. I want to say thank you for your time. I feel like I could sit with you for hours and keep learning.
Oh
So
yeah, we could do this all day, man.
yeah, yeah. So I want to say thank you. And I don't think I have clarity. I know you do imagery. It sounds like you use your
Yeah.
mind to create images that are compelling to you. And it sounds like you've got goals and you've got a process that you write some stuff down. Do you journal? Do you
Oh yeah.
meditate? Yeah, do you journal and
I
meditate?
So that's how kind of how the book happened.
Mhm.
It started for me journaling every day, which that was handwritten. I've kind of pretty much moved into a point. I love drawing too. I've reconnected immensely back with that since I haven't played anymore. So I have like a sketchbook slash journal slash calendar thing, just something that I can write on with no lines. That's pretty much like a good wheelhouse for me. I keep that everywhere. And I do meditate. I know that's like a huge term, and it varies from person to person. I always start off my mornings, the first 30 minutes, I give me a coffee. I sit down on my seat outside, probably right outside my office or my garage, and I just sit there and kind of just think about my day, what I'm going to do today, my schedule, what I'm going to go over, and just have that moment of peace. And I try to get to it again in the evening. But yeah, I do try to take that moment of just not doing anything. A lot of people, think you have to sit there. It's like, damn, which finger do I hit? I'm not too much like that. I'll be the old guy in the rocking chair, hopefully on the porch, just sitting there. You know what I mean? And that'll be my meditation.
Brilliant. Okay. I mean, I'm wishing you all the success. I wish there was a project or something fun we could do. I'm gonna root from the sidelines and drive people, to chrisbosh.com for your book, and hopefully you're doing keynotes and you're sharing your pearls of wisdom, inside of organizations and folks that want to understand transformation. They want to understand the practices of becoming one's best. And so,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely,
yeah.
man.
Okay, awesome. Chris, is there anything that you want to make sure that we tap into that I just your genius is on full display, and so I want to make sure that we do you justice as well. Yeah.
Oh no, it's good. I will add that music is a form of meditation, I feel as well. And that kind of gets me in that state.
Hmm.
Very, very much so. But yeah, I mean, just finding those things and I love the fact that people want to get better. I love the fact that people want to get the best out of themselves. One of the things that I would entice people to do is not study too much. There is the part of it, but get out there and do it. Let's act. That's kind of the mode that I'm in right now. When you learn that knowledge, apply it, use it. If you're a beginner and you're a painter or a sculptor, make it. Sure, you're not going to be Picasso or Da Vinci right away, but if you stay at it, stay with it, you'll be the best form of yourself. And nothing comes without going through that beginner phase. I've learned to embrace it. I've learned to accept it, the frustration, you know what I mean? Like, just like,
Hmm.
man, I might be ranting, but it's so interesting. I'll ask people, they might see a drawing or something I do. They say, oh, wow, you can draw. I tell people, I encourage people, you can draw too. The first thing everybody says is, no, I cannot. I said, okay, don't say that. Yo, draw a circle. Okay, you can draw. you know, draw a house with you in front of it. What happened to the stick figures with the house, man? We all start from somewhere. But I want to entice people to put it into action. Let's get started. Do it and refine that work as you go along. But always believe, hold that visualization in your head. of what you want to create, and the person that you want to be. And you keep working toward that every day, fall in love with the work you're doing. I think that could help tremendously with people. And I'm talking to myself when I'm telling you guys this. I always say things that I want to embody as well. So, happy creating.
Oh, that is awesome. And, give a little plug for Daddy Jack Records, your record label, and maybe you're going to do some artwork on some of your albums that you're going to produce. How
Oh
about it?
yeah, we'll
Come
have
on.
some good times, man. We have some
Okay.
good
Yeah.
times. We have some things in the works.
Okay. All
If
right.
people
Cool.
love music, please follow. So we'll be out
Are
there.
there any books that you'd hope that I would read that have been influential to you?
Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Hmm.
You've read probably Ryan's books, of course.
Ryan Holiday. Yeah.
Have you read Conspiracy? It has nothing to do with it. It's just entertaining. Have you read that
No.
one?
No. Is it good?
Woo! You got to
It's
read
got
that
you.
one.
Okay.
You
Conspiracy.
gotta read that one. That has,
Okay.
it's just a hell of a story.
Okay. Okay.
And
All right.
there's
Good.
Ryan, he's gonna put the things in there too, but just the story,
Yeah.
I don't want to hype it up too much, but yeah, I read that one in a week. He gave it to me and I flew through it. It was
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. He's a good
Um,
writer. Yeah. He's a great
yeah,
writer.
that guy is awesome. Um, Becoming Kareem by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, I haven't read that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
excellent,
Okay.
excellent author, excellent
Hmm.
writer. He's been writing for decades. One of the
Hmm.
greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that is what is coming on the top of
Okay.
my head right now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think those ones. I'm reading the narration of Frederick Douglass. I think that's
Mm.
important for people to read. It is harsh, but it's necessary. I think you got to know the past to know where you're going, and in the state of the country that we're in right now, we have to understand what this country was founded on, and where we have come from to get to where we are today, in hopes that we understand a little more to kind of help a little more, right? And although it is it could be a tearjerker to some people. It's thin, very thin, but it's some poignant writing, and the fact that he became who he became, it's incredible.
Okay. Good. There we go. And
Yeah.
then, and then, slight shift here. Are you a boat person by any chance? And if not, what would you name your boat?
I'm not so much a boat I love boats, but I can't say that I'm a captain or anything like that. Oh man, what would I name
Come
my
on. What
boat?
would you name it? Yeah.
Shoot, something corny like Good Times, something you see in the Keys.
Good times.
So you see in the Florida Keys, you know what I
I
mean? Like
love
Good
it.
Times, yeah, original, buddy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Right.
something corny, but they'll get it,
I love it. I appreciate corniness. But like that's so good.
That's what my
All
kids
right.
tell me now. They say, "Oh, dad joke, that was lame." I'm like, oh man, you guys are doing it to me already, huh? You used to love that one.
All right, Chris. Wishing you the flat out best. ChrisBosh.com. And we're gonna promote in all the right places,
Appreciate
your
you, man.
book and your website and your label and all the good stuff.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right, man. Take it easy.